Some years back, an executive from a rather large audio company interested in developing multi-driver in-ear monitors asked me whom I'd recommend they talk to about the topic. He asked me if there was a Jedi master in that field, and I don't even remember if he'd finished his sentence before I responded with Jerry Harvey. Now, I don't know if Jerry ever worked with that company, but if I was asked that same question again today, I'd answer just as quickly, and my answer would be exactly the same. If you've ever had a chance to talk to Jerry Harvey about in-ear monitor design and engineering, then you'd understand why. Now, while Jerry Harvey didn't invent the in-ear monitor, his reimagining and re-engineering of them led us to where we've gone and where we are now with premium IEMs. If we did that whole "it's a wonderful life" thing and could somehow go back and completely remove Jerry Harvey from our world's history, we would not be looking at the high-end multi-driver in-ear market we have today. Now, back in 2013, Jerry released what is still JH Audio's flagship IEM called the JH Audio Layla. To this day, I think the Layla is one of the best-sounding IEMs available, but it suffered from one deal-killer flaw. It was just crazy huge and as a result also very heavy. It was also a less-than-ideal shape for my ears, and I'm guessing that was true for many others. Now, there was a perfectly understandable reason for its size, though. The Layla's shape and size were largely determined by not just the number of drivers, but mostly by its freak phase waveguide design that used silicone tubes of varying lengths to get the drivers in phase. Now, in the Layla, there were 3 such tube waveguides, the longest being 40 millimeters in length. And you can't bend silicone tubes at more than a 90-degree angle or else they kink and reduce the flow of audio. This is why the Layla was so huge. Now, while understandable that the resulting IEM chassis was large and heavy, it didn't change the fact that it was simply too large and heavy to fit in my ears well for long-term use. Now, being a bit over-round in shape as well, it also didn't just pop into my ear like a more anatomically friendly shape would. I had to wriggle and fiddle with it to seat it properly. Now, I think this is perhaps why the JH Audio Layla is not talked about as frequently as some other flagship IEMs. Its sound certainly merits the plaudits it's received even this many years later, but its form factor just took it out of the running for too many of us. Today, though, JH Audio, together with Astell&Kern, is launching the latest version of the Universal Fit Layla called the JH Audio Astell&Kern Layla AION. And finally, the Layla has a form factor that will allow most ears to wear and enjoy its mastering monitor sound. Now, for the new Layla AION, Jerry Harvey and his team developed something called the Sonic Tube Chassis. It's a 3D printed chassis that has chambers to house the 12-driver configuration. And freak phase is now accomplished not with silicone tubes, but with the 3 Sonic tubes SLA 3D printed right into the Sonic Tube chassis, and with very creative tight routing of those Sonic tubes to get the chassis to a reasonable size. This Sonic Tube chassis is then housed in a machined carbon fiber shell that starts as a solid block of compressed layered resin-infused carbon fiber that's machined into the most ear-friendly ergonomic universal shape we've seen from JH Audio. Now, I'm a sucker for carbon fiber, so the look of the layered solid carbon fiber shells is just sick. Also, the nozzle housing is part of the machined carbon fiber block, so it should be quite durable. Now, that nozzle is just the right length for my ears, by the way, and the nozzle angle makes for a very quick seating. This is the chassis the Layla deserved and needed. Jerry's goal was to get the Layla's sound signature into a much more usable chassis, and JH Audio did a fantastic job with that. The new chassis is 31% smaller and 45% lighter than the Layla full metal jacket version it replaces. That's a big deal. By the way, with the Layla AION, JH Audio also reduced the size of the inline bass control housing by 43%, and I thought it was quite compact and tidy as it was. I'll talk more about the bass controls later. Another key change JH Audio and Astell&Kern are introducing with the Layla AION is a new earpiece connector and cable plug. JH Audio worked with a German manufacturer to develop an all-new proprietary 7-pin plug-in connector. This German-made connector is military-grade and designed to create a tight grip at the connection and designed to virtually eliminate accidental disconnects, yet with easy, deliberate insertion and removal. An O-ring makes the connection sweat-proof. They've also gone to a new, stronger, lightweight braided cable that's made of high-purity 4N oxygen-free silver-plated Litz wire. This is an aftermarket quality cable. Why the new connector system? JH Audio wanted a plug that could withstand the rigors of professional stage use, and I think the use of 7 pins speaks to some very trick features from JH Audio down the road. Inside the earpieces, the JH Audio Astell&Kern Layla AION, like its Layla predecessors, uses 12 custom balanced armature drivers per side and a quad-low, quad-mid, quad-high configuration. The Layla AION still uses what is perhaps the most sophisticated crossover network in an IEM, all of the crossover filters being 4th-order type, the output signals of 4th-order crossovers being in phase, and the steep slope resulting in less overlap between drivers, among other advantages. So, for example, the bass controls control the bass. Now, the Layla AION was designed as a reference-tuned IEM for mastering and studio use, and it would be superb for the purpose. Thankfully, that sort of a tuning is what a lot of audio enthusiasts are also after, so this is a very good thing. As I've said many times before, and I'm sure I'll say many, many times more, there's no single headphone target curve that could ever serve as the universal definition of what neutral is to everyone. Rather, I feel that when it comes to headphones and earphones especially, neutral is more of a range. Anything within that range is what I'll refer to as neutral-ish, and the Layla AION is squarely within that range. That is, with its bass dials in the 12 o'clock position, perhaps out to 1 or 2 o'clock. Now, for those of you not familiar, several of JH Audio's IEMs come with variable bass controls using inline dials on the cable. The Layla AION's variable bass is adjustable from 0 plus or minus 10 decibels. This is the frequency response you're looking at now with the bass control straight up at 12 o'clock. As you can see, the bass response is flat and it's perfectly extended all the way down to 10 Hertz. Now this is the frequency response with the dial where I generally listen, around 1 o'clock or 1:30. And this is with the bass all the way up, which as you can see is up around 10 decibels from the 12 o'clock position per specifications. From what I consider my subjectively dead flat or dead neutral, I'd call the Layla AION's midband a bit warmer, a bit subdued, but still with excellent resolution. Treble presence is also lovely, also on the slightly smoother side, but as with the mid-range, still very resolving. Now these characteristics give the JH Audio Astell&Kern Layla AION what I'd call, on balance, in my preferred bass control settings between 12 and 2 o'clock on the bass dial, what I'd call the more forgiving side of neutral. Now I cannot induce unnatural coldness or hardness from the Layla AION with any bass setting at or above 12 o'clock, and I never go below 12 o'clock for whatever that's worth. The Layla AION's imaging is superb as well. In direct comparisons, I found it a little wider and more cohesive than the previous generation Layla Full Metal Jacket. I was surprised by this, and perhaps it's related to changes in the nozzle, which now has what JH Audio calls an acoustic sound chamber at the end of the bore. It restricts the actual volume of air in front of the tubes, which they say does help keep the frequency response on target. Now, I've seen no such claims from JH Audio about that feature where imaging is concerned, but where it's located, I have to imagine there's potential for some acoustical effect. Whatever the case may be, it does also have the added advantage of helping keep wax and sweat away from the ends of the bore. Like its predecessor, the Layla AION has a nominal impedance of 20 ohms, and its sensitivity is rated at 117 decibels at 1 milliwatt. This is sensitive enough to use with just about anything, but it doesn't jump into a quiet amplifier's noise floor like more sensitive IEMs can. Now, I've been using the Layla AION primarily with the Astell&Kern Cube, an absolutely magnificent player that I can't decide if I like more as a large portable player or a small transportable all-in-one desktop system. I've also been using the Layla AION with the FiiO Q5S with the FiiO AM3D THX AAA amp module, fed by the Huawei P30 Pro smartphone as a wireless digital transport via LDAC. Anyway, that's the new JH Audio Astell&Kern Layla AION. It should be available in Asia starting September 1st and in the US, Europe, and Australia this fall. The Layla has always had the sonic makings of an eventual universal fit IEM legend, but that sound came at the expense of an unwieldy chassis. That's now been solved beautifully. With the JH Audio Astell&Kern Layla AION, I think the Layla will find a wider audience with high-end IEM enthusiasts and will sit comfortably and competitively among the top-tier IEMs. The Layla AION is a stunning mastering monitor and audiophile IEM with musical genre-jumping versatility thanks to its bass variability and fourth-order crossovers. Anyway, thanks for watching this episode of HeadFi TV. We'll see you in the next episode and on the forums at headfi.org.